My full name was Patricia, and it was high school, now Hillman. I was born in Tulare, California in 1928. My father was John High School, married my mother, Margaret Thomas High School. She was a teacher, and of course they lived in Tulare. On my father's side, his father was Jefferson Davis High School, and he was married to Lucy Eva App High School. And then going up another generation, the connection here is my grandmother, and her mother was Leanna Donner, one of the survivors of the Donner Party, and she was married to John App, and they lived in Jamestown. You know, I was 18 months old, I think, when Leanna died, and I do not remember being there. There are pictures of me with her holding me. There's one particular picture that I show when I give Donner Party talks of Leanna, who's in her 90s, her early 90s, and my grandmother standing next to her holding me, and then my sister, who's 3.5 years older than I, is standing in front of Leanna. I am told that Leanna rarely smiled, and I can understand that because I think she'd been through a lot of trauma as a child. But she was a very friendly woman to family members only, not to strangers. I can tell by the look on her face in some of the pictures that she enjoyed her grandchildren. And my sister, who, as I say, is older than I, does remember her as a person, not a touchy-feely person, but still somebody who obviously enjoyed her family. My first remembrance of even being connected to the Donner Party was when I was probably about 8. I know that my mother said to us, don't ask even my grandmother about the Donner Party, because her mother, Leanna, never wanted to talk about it, and she never wanted it to be referred to. I know my great-grandmother Leanna must have come down when the children were born. My oldest aunt was born in Stockton before they moved down to Tulare. And then, but my father was born in 1890 in Tulare, and then my younger aunt was born in 1892, also in Tulare. And I know just from hearing them talk that Leanna came down on the train to be with my grandmother. And of course, in those days, babies were all born at home. In fact, I was even born in the front bedroom, and that was in the 1920s because there were no maternity hospitals. But so I know she must have been here, of course, before I was born. I have no idea what kind of a train trip that would have been, because she would have had to go to Stockton. So it's an era I wish I knew more about. Well, the California curriculum, state curriculum, studies California history in the 4th grade. So I talked to 4th graders, and I've also talked to a lot of civic groups, and I've traveled around and talked to historical groups. But the kids are the most fun. And I always take a big chart. I'm kind of old-fashioned, so I don't have a PowerPoint. I take a chart and show how the Donners traveled across the United States. Talked a lot. I talk a lot about their difficulties and their heartbreaks. You know, 4th graders are watching a lot of TV now, so they want to know about the starvation and the cannibalism. And I remember one time I gave that talk to 4th graders, and I didn't mention it, and they were devastated. They wanted to know about that. And usually it's kind of a storytelling, and then I always open it up to questions and get some wonderful questions, because these kids are thinkers. I also have a little box of, I call them goodies, that I take, square nails, shoes, shoe buttons, shoes, gold, little pieces of gold, old hammers that are made, the handles are hand hewn, and try to get them to put themselves into that era, because my great-grandmother, who I feature in these talks, was about their age when she had to go through this ordeal. One of the things I didn't mention about Leanna is she didn't, as I told you before, ever want to talk about it. She didn't want her children to talk about it, or her grandchildren. She was told, apparently, by her stepmother when she left Donner Lake to walk out to Sutter's Fort, where the 5 little girls, who were all sisters and half-sisters, lived, waiting for their parents to come out of the mountains. Their parents didn't survive, of course. They were told by their stepmother, never talk to anybody about this. And so my great-grandmother was between 94 and 95, because she died at 95, when for some reason she decided to open up and talk to a young newspaper reporter from the Modesto Bee. And she told him the whole story. Her thoughts were very clear, and it was interesting that after that amount of time, because she was 10 and 11 during that winter that she was at Donner Lake, that she could remember all the details. Now, this is not to say that some of the details hadn't come out before, because she talked to her daughter, Rebecca, and also to her son, John Quincy, and they told the story to people who were writing about them, and I'm particularly thinking of Charles McGlashan, who wrote the first book on the Donner Party. But for her to go back and tell this young man what had happened in her own words is amazing. And I always read little pieces of that to my 4th graders when I talk to them, because to hear in her own words how difficult it was for her to walk out, and how hungry they were, and how on the last day they had food as they were walking out, she ate her little piece of what we would call jerky in one meal, and it was supposed to last for dinner and breakfast in the morning. She ate it all that night. And the next morning, she said to sit and look around and see everybody eating their little piece, and she didn't have one. It was devastating to her, and her sister looked at her and broke her tiny piece in half and shared it with her. And for 4th graders to hear that in her own words, I think has a really profound effect on them, and it does on me every time I tell it.